Good morning, and thank you for tuning in to Nadya's Identity Files. I'm sorry I missed you last week. I was in the throes of a really terrible cold that's been going around. I know a couple of my friends have indicated that they've had the flu 2 times in a row, which I'm so incredibly grateful that wasn't me. But that's why I wasn't here, and I hope you enjoyed the rerun. I think the episode that we played was with Liza and Elvira from the week before, which was super awesome and rewarding. But now I'm on the mend. I'm not 100%, but I am almost there, probably like 98.257%, perhaps. So today we're going to explore the cultivation of identity through the darkness, or more directly, identity and the industrial and gothic subcultures. Don't expect this to be an episode of me recounting all of my improper mall goth excursions that took place through high school. I was a total mall goth. Well, okay, I wasn't a total mall goth, but I definitely was very much into the darkness and the scene. And I would say by and large, I formed my identity, quite a bit of my identity, through listening to dark wave and industrial music, through reading a lot of Edgar Allan Poe and Sylvia Plath. I was very interested in kind of looking at the nuances behind things that seem really scary or kind of rooted in melancholy, I guess you could say. So today we're going to look at the nuances and beauty behind a culture that outwardly appears scary or inaccessible, or even, as I used to be called in high school, like literally people would point at me and say, that girl's evil and she's satanic, just because I was wearing black clothing and black hair, which is just completely absurd. But, you know, that's kind of that's the issue that we want to explore today, and why people kind of have these preconceived notions about people who are involved and fascinated by this type of culture and scene, because there are so many nuances to it, and I'm excited to go into that today. But first, before we really dig there, I want to talk for a little bit about what the darkness even means, because it just sounds so amorphous, right? The darkness. Like, what is the darkness? You may immediately think of our friend Edgar Allan Poe, who I just mentioned that I loved to read in high school, and even still, of course. I mean, major pillar, amazing writer. Or Mary Shelley, or generally just like metal and dark wave music, period. But these are examples of creative expression, the darkness shown through metaphor, as read by Frankenstein, obviously is an indication of a deeper reflection of melancholy, of melancholic experience, right? So the darkness can be derived from personally troubling experiences, but it can also be a reflection of societal and cultural problems. Quite often, the darkness represents destructive and negative circumstances. I mean, clearly we're feeling a lot of that right now. There's a lot of hostility in the air, and it seems that this has been, in large part, a catalyst for a new creative expression, including writing, anything ranging from poetry to creative nonfiction, to just fiction, to just, even posts on social media that are bringing about certain feelings and thoughts because of the darkness that's permeating our atmosphere, that's permeating our political landscape right now. And that's just one example. In high school, like I just was detailing, I was really a total goth. I wore black from head to toe. I listened to a lot of industrial and metal and dark wave. I hung out in cemeteries. I know, I was literally I was kind of a cliche, but I like to think that I dug in to things a little more deeply because I've always been a very introspective person. So I also wrote poetry, which I still do when I have time. Would love to have more time to do that. And I was actually thinking of sharing a poem today that definitely highlights the darkness, but I think it would have been a little much for you guys. So didn't want to go there. If you want to hear the poem, you can find me on social media. And if you're lucky, if you're catching me on a good, generous moment, I might just share it with you. But in any event, I saw beauty behind raw emotion, especially sadness and anger. So just like comedy can be found in tragedy, beauty can be found in the darkness. And my computer just went dark. How about that? So today, we're going to be speaking with two artists, one composer and songwriter, as well as a jewelry and set designer, about identity and the dark wave and goth subculture. Chris Worsig is a composer, songwriter, and producer, best known for his electro-noir band No Carrier. He also is the composer of the Identity song that you hear every single episode as my intro. I absolutely love his work. So excited to have him here. I've been trying to get him on the show for a little while, so we're finally going to speak with him about his background. And then second, a friend of Chris and somebody who I've just had the pleasure and honor of meeting, Talene Almeskian, and I probably butchered your name. You can correct me live and make me look like a complete moron. I'm so open to that. Is a set and jewelry designer and founder of the jewelry line Sadistica. A quote I love from her, oh no. Y'all, I'm sorry. Pause. So sorry. I just saw the pigeon man. I need to get him on my show. Can someone help me with that? So, going back to my second guest, I'm going to introduce her again because that was just too much to handle right there. Talene Almeskian is a jewelry and set designer, and she has this really fantastic line called Sadistica, and she's going to show some of her work. I think she's wearing some of it today, and she's going to be bringing over some of her other designs so we can check those out. And a quote I love from her, I see potential. This is her words, you guys. I see potential in broken bits, and I find beauty in rust and erosion. The older an object, the more haunting its ghost. I thought that was so freaking eloquent and beautiful because I also have a fixation on looking at just even objects that seem ugly or destroyed and seeing the beauty in them and looking at them from a place of storytelling. As you know, a lot of my work revolves around story and identity, so I'm super excited to talk to her. But first, clearly we have to have our identity news update. First, I want to talk about some recent attacks that we've been seeing across the nation, particularly towards the trans community, the transgendered community. In late February, 2 trans women were murdered in New Orleans, just 2 days apart. And I believe in the past month, I think in the month of February alone, and I could be mistaken, 7 trans women were reported murdered or attacked. So in New Orleans specifically, the motivations were said not to be rooted in hate, and these were said not to be hate crimes by law enforcement. But in my personal opinion, I feel like that is just a way to reduce the investigative time and period and to negate from the seriousness of these crimes. So my heart goes out to the transgender community and the types of assaults that we're seeing right now. We're going to go into trans identity in much greater depth next week. I'm going to have 2 fantastic trans women and activists and just like really cool people on the show. So please tune in for that next week at 11 a.m., same time. And some other recent issues that we've seen are assaults to the Jewish community, particularly to Jewish cemeteries. Recently, I think it was the end of February, a cemetery in Philadelphia was completely ravaged. Maybe 100 tombstones or so were messed up. And this really hits close to home because my mom, who's Jewish, grew up in Philadelphia. My grandma, as far as I'm aware, her headstone is in Philadelphia. So it's just really unsettling to hear about this. So keep your eyes and ears open for each other right now, you guys. We're living in a very hostile time, and that's for every group. So make sure that we are all coming together and, you know, being on the lookout for things that look sketch, okay? That's my shout out to you. Tomorrow is International Women's Day, March 8th, so go out there and celebrate. There's probably going to be a bunch of rallies and events. I'm not sure of maybe a few that I want to check out, but there's obviously going to be a bunch. And this month period is Women's History Month. Throughout the month, I'm going to be doing different Facebook Lives and making posts on my Facebook and my Instagram and Twitter, in addition to highlighting issues about women and our fabulousness here on the show. So make sure you're following me on social media so we can interact and have a dialogue about issues facing women. And, you know, anyone who's a woman that you'd like me to discuss or highlight, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to do that for you. Really quickly, I do want to make everyone aware of Up to Good. Up to Good is an organization that it's actually a crowdfunding platform that's based in social good movements. And there's an Up to Good Film Festival at the end of April 22nd. We are still, and I'm saying we because Nadya's Identity Files is a media partner with Up to Good, and they are still accepting submissions for short films from students, high school and college age. So if you see the URL up there, please go to that URL and submit your film. It doesn't have to be super fancy or complicated, but you do have to be exploring an issue that is of concern to you facing society. One more thing. I am running my mouth today big time. I'm almost out of time, you guys, before we got to cut to commercials. But today is election day in Los Angeles. Go out there and vote. I'm not going to tell you how to vote. I've seen a lot of people on Facebook saying, like, this is how you should vote. This is how you should vote. No. Educate your effing self and figure it out and go out and vote. Today is election day for Los Angelinos. Go and vote. Okay? All right. So we'll be right back with Chris, and then after that, Talene, and then we'll have a round table. Stay tuned.